managed a large-scale talent identification program in Hungary, run by the Templeton Foundation. 16,000 children participated in this program. It was a voluntary program, advertised on internet and media and whatever. Come and take part and fill out questionnaires and tests, and then you will be enrolled in this program and you will get mentors and all sorts of things. The program itself was very interesting, but the most interesting part to me was that there was a complete agreement among everybody in the project that we cannot rely on schools to identify talents. That was the very most important message from it. You know, we tested thousands and thousands of children instead of going to school and asking them, well, whom do you think are the guys that we should take care of, or how can we help you to nurture your talents in the school? Nobody believed that would work. Nobody believed we could use schools to help it. Everybody's idea was that we should take a separate measurement of people and identify talent from outside and bring the whole process outside of school. And that was shocking. These are final exam books of students 100 years ago and now. So, whereas the industrial process changed tremendously, the education in schools basically stayed the same in the last hundreds of years. So school, well, we keep saying that no child is left behind. Schools are certainly left behind, at least in Hungary. In selection procedures, when you have to select a few people out of a lot of guys, what you have is you have a large number of input, then you have a process going through, and at some point you go down to individual assessment and you sit down with children, with candidates to jobs and so on, and you have to make a decision. Now, if you don't use objective assessments, in many cases what happens is that you have a large number of input, you make some arbitrary decisions whom you are going to have interviewed, and then based on that you try to select your few. What we are saying is that if you are using some testing, the people whom you can deal with individually could be better qualified for the position you are selecting. The two components which Spearman suggested that we should consider are educative and reproductive ability, and these are difficult words, so I'm just using knowledge and ability. We are measuring one with vocabulary scale, that's how we measure knowledge, and we are using these Raven type of instruments to measure educative ability. For today's environment, this has to be put online, this has to be computerized. And of course we have created an online adaptive instrument to that. This is just an image of how the instrument looks like on different devices. So this is now a vocabulary scale where the question is, please select the two words which are most similar to each other in meaning. Now, all of you who know Raven's progressive matrices, the question there is that there is a 3x3 matrix and the ninth one is missing and there are options to choose from, which one is missing. Now, we thought that this format wasn't very suited for screens where space is very precious. You have to display all the options that you wouldn't use in the end. That was one of the reasons. The other reason we changed the test format was that I like to change things. So here the task is, you have to switch two tiles in order to make them well arranged, both horizontally and vertically. I don't know how many of you are familiar with item response theory. What we are basically doing is that everybody is getting a different test, but still the results are comparable. So what we do is, you get a question, a task in the beginning, and whether you have it right or wrong, you get if you get it right, you get a more difficult task. If you get it right, more difficult task, less difficult. If you get it wrong, less, and so on. And finally, we arrive at an estimated level of ability. And this path is different for everybody, but at every point, we have an estimate of the candidate's ability. What this is showing is every dot is an item in the test. And these are the numbers of people who gave answer on that item. So we have items with huge number of respondents. The color is the quality of the item. More reddish is better. And this is the difficulty estimate of that item. So what we see is that because this instrument is adaptive, most of the items will be picked from the middle difficulty level, and the better items will be more often displayed. In a classical test, you would have a maximum of 60 number of items. In a modern item response theory test, you would have 200, 300, 500 items in your item banks. So it's a lot of work. In a classical test, if you have 1,000 test takers based on which you are creating your norms, you are absolutely fine. With our tests, we have more than 10,000 people having done any of these instruments, so it's a lot of work, and you have to keep it updated as we are going. So just going back to this one, if you notice, what happens is that the items started to go up, but then new items always appears because we keep adding new items, new tasks to the test, and they get used and they get scaled, so the instrument will be always updated. And having instruments like this allows us to do some fantastic studies. This is our results with the vocabulary scale by age. So we see huge increase in early childhood and a slow decrease in higher age. With vocabulary scale, we will try to do things like measuring added value of schools. We will do things like trying to pick up abnormal ways of forgetting words as an indicator of Alzheimer's disease. We can look at things like demographic distribution of different abilities in the country and look at their reasons. We can look at socio-economic background of test results. This is one of the best. It was done earlier still with the SPM plus scores. This one shows how the scores on the SPM plus test changes with the education of mother and the education of father, and you can see that at every point of education of the parent, not the child, of the parent, the score increased significantly. Just using G, general intelligence or IQ, to measure people is a very, very limited tool set, and we would like to use all sorts of other tests, abilities, motivation questionnaires, and so on. Children and candidates for jobs as well are very, very different. And we'd like to provide them opportunities to show their talents.